And I'm gonna zoom good.
Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you on this live stream how to make this half square triangle pillow. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, so we've got 3 cameras going, so we might have to like move cameras and stuff. So let me tell you what you need for this. And I have made several of these. It takes about 4 hours. So what you need are 18 5-inch squares. I wanted to do mine all aqua because I have an aqua living room. So what I did was I used 4 charm packs, which I know is super wasteful. I used Handmade, The Good Life, Lulu Lane, and Flour Mill. Now, just so you know, I'm not getting rid of all of the leftovers. This is from making several pillows. I'm gonna save them and then I'll do like a pink pillow or a gray pillow. I just keep them all together and save them. So you need 18 prints and 18 white. So this is color 98, 9900 color 98. And so I've got 18 print, 18 white. Then you need 1.5 inch finished half square triangle paper. I like triangles on a roll, and the triangles on a roll today will work good because the paper is going to fit exactly on the charm pack with very little waste. So I know y'all will really like that. So the first thing you want to do is you need 18 squares that look like this. So I'm going to show you how you cut them, and we'll kind of move the cameras a little bit so you can see what we do. So I kind of keep mine with little clothespins on them so that when I take them out of the box, they don't move. Let me get my box and I'll show you how I store those real quick. So this is my half square triangle box, and like I talked to y'all about before, I keep everything in boxes. So this is every size that they have, even the big ones, and I use these all the time. So I either put washi tape on the end or little clothespins so the paper doesn't go everywhere. So this is kind of how I store them, and I've had these papers forever. So I just use this all the time. So there's that. So what you're going to do to cut is, and do you want to move the cameras? I don't know how we're going to do this.
Yeah, you and I will follow.
Okay, so I'm going to just cut 2 across. And then cut that in half. And so you get little X's. So that's how that looks. You need 18 of those. Put my papers back. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a white square and a print square right sides together. And I'm just going to place one of these papers on top like this, and you can see there's just like a tiny bit around that's going to be cut off. So there's going to be basically no waste. And now we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew this. Okay.
You want to hang on for 1 second while I move everything.
Now on this, I'm going to use a tiny stitch length, probably like a 1.2 or so. The tinier you make it, the easier your paper is going to rip off. So if you make really big stitches and then you rip it off, your paper is going to rip out your stitches. So I just do a really tiny stitch. I also have kind of like an open toe foot. I know it's not really called that, but it's just a foot where I can see where I'm stitching. It doesn't have a 1/4 inch guide or anything on it. So I'm just gonna stitch on the dotted lines with a tiny stitch. And I'm gonna go as fast as I do when I'm sewing normally, just so y'all can see how fast this can be and how fast my Juki goes. So you can see how fast that goes, and I've sewn on the dotted lines, and so on the back you're just gonna see like a big X, and you're gonna do this for all 18. So now I'm gonna cut. So when you cut, you want to cut on the solid lines. And the first thing I'm gonna do is I'll cut all 4 sides on the outside first, because that's easiest. So I do that. I keep this little bowl on my desk, and I will fill it up like several times when I'm doing this project or any other project. I got this, I know everybody's gonna ask, I got it at Magnolia Market or Magnolia, whatever, in Waco. The people from Fixer Upper. So I got that there. So I just use all my scraps there. And then, so I've got 2 more lines I've gotta cut in the center and across. So I'm gonna cut the first one, and I'm gonna kind of keep it in place with my finger right there so it doesn't move. Move my ruler and cut again. And then I've got to cut the X's across, which are also solid lines. Those don't have to be as accurate. So now you've got 8 triangles. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the paper off. I'm going to put my finger right where the stitches start and just rip. And it's so tiny that that's just going to pull off. That's one of the things I like about the brand Triangles on a Roll. Some of the triangle paper you buy might be a little bit too thick. I've used Triangle on a Roll for, gosh, I don't know how many years. It's pretty much, as you saw from my little box, it's the only one I use. I also like the way you can store it. It just kind of stays nice, and the papers never get wrinkled or anything. I just like that brand. So now we're gonna go iron these. So on this project, I'm not using starch at all, because if I use starch, it would shrink my charm pack. So when I work with pre-cuts, I don't ever use starch. So we're gonna press 4 from each color to the white. And we're going to press 4 from each color to the print. And I'll explain why in a minute. So first I'm going to set my seam by just pressing down. And then I'm going to press to the dark here. And I kind of stack them on top of each other because the heat will just press the ones on the bottom even flatter. So those are to the print. I'm going to set the seams on these, and then I'm going to press these towards my white. If y'all have any questions for me as we go, just send them. If you put them on the YouTube super chat, we're going to see those quicker because they show up bigger. So we've done that. Now I'm going to cut off my dog ears. I keep this cute little plate at my cutting table because it stores my scraps, and I just have a lot of like little knickknacks that make it cute. So these are the ones that are pressed towards the white. So what I've done is I've got a board that's got all of the blocks that I pressed to the white, and then all of the ones that I pressed to the dark. And you're gonna understand why I do that in a little bit. I like everything to nest when I'm sewing, and keeping them on these little design boards keeps everything very organized. I actually made, these I bought, but I have some that I've made. So I've got a big combination of sizes and colors. So these are the ones to the dark. These are the ones to the light. So now we're gonna kind of move back to where we were. Sorry.
It's all good. Thank you.
And then I'm gonna explain what we're gonna do next. Put this on the floor. So if you look at the pillow, it's got 144 squares. So the way that I pieced this was in 4 quadrants. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And each of these has 36. And so what I did was I went ahead and did 3 last night so that it would, not take so long on camera. What you're gonna do is the 2 quadrants here are gonna press towards your print, and your 2 quadrants here are gonna press towards your white. And then if you press the way I show you on the next step, every seam will nest. And I'm also pressing these to one side instead of open because I am stitching in the ditch very close to the seam. And if you're gonna stitch in the ditch right next to a seam, you don't wanna press open. So I kind of put this project together knowing that and figuring out all the pressing so that you wouldn't even have to think. So again, 2 opposites are gonna press one way and 2 opposites are gonna press another way. So when you do these, what you can do is pull 2 squares from each stack. 2, 2, 2, 2. So what I've done is from my stacks, I've already placed this here to save time. Let me see. And so I have all of these going the same direction. And I've got 6 by 6. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to save time when you're sewing this by chain piecing. And I'm also going to show you how to press it. Then we're gonna put all of them together. So, oops. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna change feet. I'm gonna put a 1/4 inch foot on my machine. And I'm gonna use like a leader or an ender. There's a lot of names for them. Basically, this is a scrap left over from a previous project. I'm gonna just use that to start so that my stitches don't come out when I'm stitching, and it saves thread in the end. I'm gonna put my machine on like a 2.0 stitch length. That's what I use. A lot of people use 2.5. I always use a tighter stitch length. It's just a preference. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stitch this row. So the first 6 together. So we're gonna do that with the 1/4 inch seam. I don't use pins for this part. I just put them together and sew. And I'm gonna sew like I normally do, which is super fast, so you can just see how fast I really sew.
Real quick, can you give a huge shout out to Jennifer Foster? She is our first Super Chat fan.
Yay! Hi Jennifer! Where are you from? So excited.
Jennifer is asking if she can pre-cut. What can I do if my pre-cut square is smaller than the size that they state on the package? How do you adjust the pattern? And she's from Fort Worth.
You can't. If your pre-cut is the wrong size, I would go back to where you bought it and try to get a new one, because we do have customers from time to time that will email customer service and say, you know, we got the wrong size, and you know what? We just send them a new one. That's what I would do, because you can't really adjust this pattern. If it's too small, you would have to go to maybe 1 inch finished size or 1.25 inch finished size, so you'd have a smaller square. But I don't know. I would just get a new one. So then I'm gonna go to the next one and I'm gonna start the next row. I'm gonna take my scissors and I'm gonna cut the previous. And then I'm gonna lay it back on here so that you can see that this is where the row was. And the reason, you'll see why I like these design boards. Because when I go to the ironing board, everything is kind of already together. And I'm gonna leave all the stitches together so that they're chain pieced together. So I'm gonna kind of put that there. I'm gonna do the next row. So, and I chain piece everything I do all the time. Just to not waste thread or time. And I use leaders. I don't know if that's really what they're called, leaders and enders. My friend Doug calls them something else, but they're just leftover scraps from previous. And you can see how fast this Juki goes. It's like a workhorse, which is why I use it. So I've done the second row. Now I'm gonna pick up the pieces from the third row and start that. And then cut the previous. So you've got your second row, put it on the board. So when we go to the ironing board, we know where it is, and then we're gonna finish this row.
And what sewing machine are you using?
So I'm using the Juki TL-2010Q. We can put a link, we'll put an Amazon link later today, an affiliate link. I bought this at a local store. Like I think the retail's $1,000, but I think I paid $900. And I think on Amazon it's like $850 to $900. Now I don't quilt on this machine. I only piece, and it will only do a straight stitch. It won't do a buttonhole, it won't do anything pretty. So I'll use a different machine in a little bit when I quilt. Now I know a lot of people that do quilt on this. I just cannot get the tension right. And it's probably because I have no patience. And I don't like messing with tension and then going back and forth between projects. Okay, so I'm gonna put this down. So I've got all 3 rows. Now I'm gonna go to the ironing board. And we're gonna iron a very specific way so that everything nests. So, do you think we should move the cameras?
Yeah, give me 1 second here.
So we'll just wait. I'll wait.
Okay. Can you remind everyone what size half square triangles you are using?
Yes, so I'm using 1.5 inch finish triangles on a roll. The SKU number is H150. They probably have them at your local quilt store, or, I mean, we sell them at Fat Quarter Shop. So I'm gonna put my first row here. On the very bottom one, I'm gonna press to the right. So I'm gonna press to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right. It's like doing a little dance. To the left. And then I'm gonna put it back on my board exactly like it was. So you can see how useful the boards are. I guess I could have used a little bit bigger one. I have about 30 of them, but I just grab whatever. And again, you're gonna go to the right on the bottom, to the left. And then I wanted to give a huge shout out to David Beck. He works in our warehouse and his birthday is Saturday. And he didn't even know we did live streams, so he said that I have to give him a shout out, so now he has to watch it. So maybe he can make a pillow for his birthday. And again, we're just gonna do the same thing. To the right, to the left. Okay, So now when I get it back on my board, I'm gonna clip in between each so it's easier on the next step. And we've got batting in the board, so it's not gonna hurt it. And yeah, it's not gonna hurt it. So got that. And we're gonna go back to our sewing machine and we're gonna stitch down here. This line and then this line, real quick. So I'll start that. And the sewing machine is like super loud. I will say that, my husband hates it. He's always like, your sewing machine is so loud.
Do you think triangle paper is worth using?
Oh, I use it all the time. If I'm using a pattern that tells you to cut it a certain size and I know it's going to be I know that it's going to be finished triangle paper, finished half square triangles, I go get my triangle paper from my box and use it. Some people think it takes too long, but it is so much more accurate than if I draw a line and then stitch on the line. It's just, it takes out the thinking. And a lot of times when I am sewing, I'm watching TV and I just want to be able to not think. And so I love it. And I mean, like I said, I bought all those just over time. And then just use them. And I'll run out of 1 or 2 rolls a year. Usually the 2-inch finish, that's the one that is used the most. So I'll have to replace that every now and then. And I left a piece on the board. Yeah, I sure did. Of course.
Can you tell us about the lamp you're using?
Okay, so the lamp I'm using is called an Dear Stella lamp. We don't sell them, but we can put a link to Amazon or somewhere else. The reason I use it is because you can touch it, it's not hot at all. I used to use a different brand and it was hot and it would like make me hot. So I use these two. I just like the way, well, I like the way they look. I don't like I like things very simple. So I like that it's white and plain and it doesn't really stand out. So I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna press the same direction we were pressing before. Just put it back on my board. So again, we're going right, left from the bottom. And in a minute, I'm gonna show a picture of how the back looks, and you could maybe screenshot that and use it if you need it. And I am using steam right now in my machine. It's kind of a habit. So I can tell I'm almost out of water. Now when I get to this point, I'm gonna really look to make sure all my triangles are going the same way because sometimes they don't. Because they go really fast. So, so now we've got this. And now all I'm gonna do is go and sew these. And then your quadrant will be done and we'll put the whole top together. Now when I do this, we're gonna pin. So I'm gonna show you how I pin. You can probably just turn those right here. Yeah. So you'll notice that these two little points need to match. And you'll notice that they all match when I sewed because I pinned. So I'm gonna put them right sides together, pin on the end, and then I call this polka pin. I think I've shown it on videos before. So I'm going to put a pin right where that point is on the back, and then right where the point is on the next one. And I'm gonna put it flat pull it out, and then just pin it. I'm gonna do that on every single seam. And this takes a little bit of time, but it's easier than ripping out later. And when I use triangle paper, I feel like my points are a lot more accurate. If I didn't use triangle paper, I feel like my points would kind of be all over the place. Because it's also just personality type. I sew so fast that if I didn't have triangle paper, I would not even be paying attention to what I was doing. So I'm gonna start with the leader. And I'm gonna stitch. And you'll see, like, I'm gonna pull these pins out, but I'm still gonna go super fast. And I just pull out as I go. And I try not to sew over pins. I've done that before, and one time I really hurt myself. So I try not to, but I do sew fast, and sometimes I do sew over them, but I try not to. See. So does anybody have any questions about what I'm doing, or I'm gonna run out of things to talk about?
So good, we've got questions. How long have you had your Juki?
Okay, so I have had this, Christopher was probably 6 years. I've had a lot of machines. I've had Berninas, Genomes. I have a baby lock that I also use. I have a Bernina at work. So I really like all machines, but for piecing, I always use the Juki. Nothing can compare to that. But it does have its limitations. You know, I don't like it for quilting or, because it's too strong. And it only has one stitch, so it couldn't be a machine that's all I had. But I love it. It's like a little workhorse. So as I sew, I'm just gonna stitch this, stick that back down, and you'll see my points match. I'm gonna get all these. I'm using Aurifil Color 2000. Pretty much use that on most of my stuff. You'll see that on the last step though, we're gonna use white so that it matches the color, the 9900 color, 9998 charm pack. I'm gonna use a white for that part.
And what is this board you are using? So
these are called design boards. We sell them at Fat Quarter Shop, or you can make them. I actually made this one. We have a video on YouTube called How to Create a Design Board with Lori Holt. It's her method, it's her product. Basically, the bottom is poster board from like Michaels. Then you hot glue a batting on top, you know, whatever kind of batting you like. I think I used 80/20. And then you create some binding strips and hot glue that on. So they're fun to make, but there's a lot of glue. So she actually sells them now. So you can either buy them or make them. They also don't have to be as fancy. I mean, you could literally just get a poster board and put batting down. You don't have to have it pretty. You don't have to have the binding part. So now I've got these two. I'm gonna sew these two together.
And what pins are you using?
So these pins, I'll have to look it up. We sell them. They're white and they are thin and sharp and skinny. So let me, Lily will put a link later. I'll try to figure out what they are. I think they're clover. But I'm very particular about my pins. I like them super, super thin and sharp. And like I said, I use these little Omni Grid scissors for everything. Like I have two right next to each other, which is ridiculous. But my daughter was actually helping me last night prep for the video, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, these are so tiny. Can I have another scissor?" And I was like, "Nope, gotta use these," because I didn't have any others. So she helped me get this ready. So I'm going to stop with an ender, and then I'm going to do this last seam. And I'm constantly laying it out just to make sure I've got everything going the right direction. So, looks right.
And do you want to tell us about Stitch Squad?
Okay, so we have this group on Facebook called Kimberly Stitch Squad. It is on Facebook. It has like 1,000 members. And it's going to be a great community where we can ask people questions. Like this morning, someone was asking about, she wants to get an embroidery machine. And then she was asking other people, you know, what brand would you recommend? So it is a great learning tool where you can learn from other people. And like, I don't have an embroidery machine, so I can't really answer, but some of the other people in there can. And people have asked questions on how to hand bind or hand quilt, and we can just all help each other out with what kind of batting do you like, any kind of question that's quilting related. And it's been a lot of fun, and people put pictures. There's a dog thread that has 88 posts, so people share their dogs, their cats. Somebody had a pig, guinea pig, so just a fun environment. So now we've got this quadrant done. I'm going to show you how you iron it. And it's all super fast. So on this one, we're going to press towards the white. So, and I'm going to first set my seam. Actually, I'm going to go get some water. So hold on a second, I'll go get some water. Okay, so I'm gonna set my seam and then press to the white. And if you do all 4 of your quadrants and press this way, they're all going to nest. And like I said, you could press open. I wouldn't, because you're stitching, unless you're gonna quilt it differently than I did.
And some people are tuning in late, so they're asking if you use triangle paper.
Yes, so I used triangles on a roll, triangle paper. It's H150. It's the 1.5 inch finished. You're going to start with 18 print and 18 white charm packs. From each of these, you're going to cut 4 sections, 4 little squares, and you're going to cut 18 of those to start. So we've got our quadrant, and now we're going to put our quadrants together. On the back, this is what it looks like, just so you can see.
Give me 1 second here. So many cords.
Yep.
There we go.
So this is how it looks pressed. Now, remember we started with 2 that were pressed towards the dark and 2 that were pressed towards the white. So I'm trying to figure out what. These are the dark. What did I do? To the white, to the white, to the dark, to the dark. Okay. So I've got the darks in the corner, pressed towards the darks, pressed towards the whites. Now what we want to do is get them all going towards the center. And I'll just double check that does not look right. So you've got darks on the outside, prints on the inside, so that looks correct. I'll move this. And then I'm going to chain piece this together also. So it looks right. Kind of check this to make sure that's all white right there. And then I'm going to do the same thing when I put this together. I'm going to pin in every little intersection. And you'll see that I really haven't had to rip out or re-sew, and all my points are matching. And I really think it's because of the triangle paper. I just think it makes it so much easier. I use it for everything. Like any pattern that I use that says cut 2 7/8 inch squares or has a 7/8 inch measurement, I know, okay, let's use triangle paper. And you just figure out what your finished size would be and use that. And then to double check before I start, I'll measure to make sure that that is the size of the square. And if it is, then I know I've got the right paper. So I'm gonna, and you'll notice all your, because of the way we did it, these even nest. So I'm gonna sew that. Sew the next one. Give me other questions.
Yes, the table.
Okay, so I had the table made. The company's now out of business. The reason I had it made is because I used to have a tiny little sewing room. It was literally like a closet. And I always used 2 machines. One to piece, one to quilt, and one to bind. And that machine over there is a Baby Lock Crescendo. We're gonna use it next. And I use that, I just leave the walking foot on. I don't have the patience to take it on and off. So I use this one for piecing and that one for quilting. And I just needed a place where I could have both machines out. So I just had it made, but there's lots of good pre-made. If I had to go back and I had a room like I have now, I would just buy something. But I just had this tiny, tiny room, so I had
it made. And someone wants to know what the reason for the glass is.
The glass. Okay, so this is really cool. Let me see. Well, this thing right here my uncle made. You probably hear me talk about him a lot. This is just literally plastic from Home Depot that he just trimmed and squared off. These are made, there's a company name on it. Okay, it's called So Steady. So these, you can put, lots of cabinets are made. There's another cabinet company, and a lot of them are made with like a little hole, and you just tell them, okay, my hole size is this, my machine is this, and they have these made, and it's like, I think it was like $60. But the reason I have it is so that when I'm sewing, everything is flat. So down here, you know, like I have to clean all my lint and stuff, but it just keeps everything very flat. And so this is made for a lot of pre-made tables. So when I had my table made, I just had them make it around this. So now I'm gonna just press real quick. I'll press one to one side and one to another side real quick. It doesn't really matter at this point. Just as long as they go the other way. And it looks so pretty. I can't wait. I really want all of y'all to make some pillows and show me what colors you use, or I want to see it made with just like one single charm pack with lots of different colors, just to see how that looks. I only made mine aqua because I needed a pillow for my living room and I don't want to buy one.
So is the sewing machine attached to the cabinet?
No. So machine can come out. This is my knee lift, but if not, you just pull it out. Oops. But yeah, you just pull it out. And yeah, and this company, I just bought it directly from them. It's called So Steady. They have a website. I called to order. It's just a little plastic. And I just like things to be flat, and I'm also taller. So if I had to sew with sewing machine down here, I would be constantly leaning over. So, but yeah, it's just called So Steady. A lot of people have it. I'm sure there's other brands. I mean, I'm not like connected to any brand. I'm sure there's other people who make them too. That's just the one that I know of. And you just tell them your make and model of your machine and they're already made. They just ship it out.
All right. People are wondering where this video is going to be posted afterwards.
So we're going to post it on YouTube, on Facebook. We will put it in our Fat Quarter Shop Facebook, Instagram, right?
Instagram stays up for 24 hours.
So Instagram will only be there 24 hours. And then we will post it also in the Kimberly Stitch Squad. And that will be really easy for you to find if you join that group.
Perfect. And Stitch Counter is asking, how do you dispose of old or dull pins and needles?
I use my pins forever. If my pins go bad, I just throw them in the garbage. But what I do dispose of is my rotary blades. I will keep, they come in those little plastic containers. And I have one that says old and one that says new, and I'll put all my old blades in there, and when it fills up, I'll throw that away. But I don't really use up my pins. I don't really throw them away. So I guess if I do, I just throw them in the trash, but it's not very often.
And how do you feel about basting glue versus the pins?
Oh, I never used glue. And I just ran out of bobbin thread, which of course would happen on the video. I don't ever use glue because I put too much on. So I don't ever really use glue. Now for applique, I think it's great, but I don't have that much experience with that. Of course this is gonna happen when we're filming. Gotta repin all this. That's one thing I will say about the Juki is it does not beep and it does not tell you when you're about to run out. And so that definitely is not high tech like some of the other machines that are out there. So this happens to me all the time. And I also sew really fast, so I don't really pay attention as much. So this happens to me all the time. I'm sure it happens to y'all too.
Someone's asking if the iron is self-cleaning or how do you clean it?
Clean it, I don't clean it. I know that's horrible. I know you can with vinegar. I never have really needed to. I've had other brand, I use an Aliso. There's like several colors. There's like purple, pink, yellow. I've never had to clean it. When I'm done sewing, if there's water, and I know I'm not going to sew for a long time, I will just hit the steam so that all the water runs out, and I just don't ever leave it with old water sitting in it, so that's probably why I haven't had to clean it. But if you clean it, I think you can do it with vinegar. Okay, so now we're gonna do one last press and then we're gonna quilt the top.
Someone's asking if you have any tips for removing triangle paper.
Oh yeah, so when I sew with triangle paper, I sew with a tiny stitch, like 1.2, 1.5, tiny, and then when I'm pulling it off, I pinch right near where it's stitched down and just yank it real fast. My daughter actually removed all the triangle paper for all this. So, and she cut all the dog ears. Okay, so we've got this. Just gonna make sure it's nice and flat. Okay, that looks good. Get all my little things off. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna quilt this. So what I did in my pillow is, I'm gonna show you. This is an 18-inch pillow, by the way. So what I did was I quilted on Soft and Stable, and I did not put a fabric on the back because Soft and Stable will stay. You can see it's not gonna mess up, it's gonna hold up. So I didn't have to put a white piece on the back because my Soft and Stable is white. Now, if you're gonna use a batting, you probably wanna put some type of white fabric or something here, but I did not because I use Soft and Stable. I love Soft and Stable. It is, it's from by Annie, and it's just awesome. So I have the size that's 36 by 58. You're just gonna need a piece that's about 19 inches. But I have tons of these packages. Like, I keep this stuff, I use it for all kinds of things. Bags, batting, pillows, pin cushions. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna eyeball it and cut maybe half an inch or an inch around. Doesn't have to be perfect, just needs to be a little bit bigger.
All right. Someone is asking, do you use pre-wound bobbins? If so, what brand?
I don't use them. I wind them myself. I only use Artful thread, and Artful doesn't sell pre-wound bobbins, so that's why I don't use pre-wound bobbins. But I have a lot of friends that do it, and they like it, so I guess you could just try it out. But if Artful ever comes out with them, for sure I will be using those. What I do, and I showed it on in our Kimberly Stitch Squad last week, I take a full Artful bobbin and wind it. And so I got that many. There was more, there was 3 more of that from one bobbin. And I will, since I use Color 2000, I mostly just have them pre-wound, and I'll just do it all at one time. It takes like 20 minutes. So I have this. Now the great thing about Soft and Stable is things don't move that much as they would on batting. So I'm not even gonna pin this. I just ironed it down so that it's gonna just kind of stay in place. And I'm going to start stitching here. I'm gonna stitch, and you can do whatever you want on quilting. I mean, you could take this to your long arm quilter, you could do stitch in the ditch, you can do all over, freehand, you can do whatever you want. But I am not very experienced, so I just do stitch in the ditch, and I'm gonna actually stitch about 1/8 or 1/4 inch away from the white. And I'm using a white thread, and I'm just gonna go all the way on the diagonal and do one side. But then when you get to the inside, you're gonna have to do square. So we'll talk about that when we get there. I'm just gonna start in one corner. And I'm gonna use my Baby Lock machine. And what I did was I tested this before we started, so I would know, oops. So I would know what stitch length I wanted.
Alright, someone is asking, do you double your batting if you're trying to make the quilt look fluffy or thicker, or do you use a different type of batting?
So this is going to give you a really nice puffy look because it's thick. So that's why I'm using it. I would not double Soft and Stable, but if you're using batting, you could definitely do that. Any kind of pillow project, I'm going to use Soft and Stable, but I also like puffy, which is why I'm doing this. So on this project, you're going to want to use a walking foot. I made my stitch length 4.0, and I'm literally just going to eyeball what I'm sewing, but when I'm sewing, I'm going to start and stop on the Soft and Stable. And I'm just using my walking foot as a guide. This little piece right here, I'm putting on the left of the print fabric, and so it just barely goes over to 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to do that on a couple of rows. And you can see the Soft and Stable is staying in place. They also sell a black. So if you were making a pillow that was really dark, They have a black version also. So you can see I'm just doing diagonals. Just gonna keep going, starting and stopping on the soft and stable, so you don't have any loose ends. Okay, now this next section, if you start and stop, you need to go into an X, like you need to go into a square, because you're going to go all the way around, and the same way on the inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right in this point where this white is, and I'm going to put my needle down right where I think it would be. I'm going to hit this button. I don't know what it's called. It's like a lock stitch, and I'm going to do it 3 times. Now, if I was using a Juki or a machine that did not have that feature, I would just start and back stitch and then start again. And then I'm going to go all the way around. I'm going to stop right in that corner. Rotate, and I'm using needle down. When I'm doing stitch in the ditch, I always do needle down. My little cord is kind of in the way. Rotate.
Someone's asking where you can buy the soft and stable.
Oh, you can buy it at fatquartershop.com. And you want to get the size that is 36 by 58. You don't want to get the 18-inch size, because if you get the 18-inch size, it's going to be half an inch shorter than what you need. So you need the bigger one. But I never throw any of that away. I just have a whole big, of course, box again. And I just keep it all in there, and I use it for all kinds of things. So even though you're buying a bigger piece than you need, you're going to use it. I started using it about, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago when she came to film, and it is like amazing because you can really see your stitches. They kind of puff up, so it looks really nice. And you can see I didn't have to pin. It's just very firm. It's easy to work with. Anything that's easy is what I like. Easy, fast, less work. Okay, now when I get back, I'm going to go to where my original stitch is, and I'm going to hit the same button again 3 times, or hold it down 3 seconds, and I'm going to cut. And I'm going to cut off any threads I have at this point. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go finish the outside sections real quick. So y'all ask me questions, so I'll have something to answer while I'm stitching.
Some people were asking what fabric was.
Do you want to grab them? Yeah. They're right there. And so I'm using handmade. So basically you need 18 print and 18 solids. I'm using handmade charm pack, the Good Life charm pack, Lulu Lane charm pack, and Flower Mill charm pack. Now I'm going to save all those extra squares. I just needed to make an aqua pillow. So I just did that so that I could get variety, but you can just use 1 charm pack, anything you want. I just love aqua and pink, so I prefer to make something than buy it.
Someone wants to know how you keep your sewing room so clean.
Oh, actually, I do really care if it's clean. So one of my sons is obsessed with ironing, with vacuuming, so he vacuums it. Anytime I say vacuum my sewing machine, he vacuums it. So he vacuumed it yesterday when I was at work, because he had to vacuum the whole house. So he vacuums it, and then I am just very, I just keep it clean after I finish. Before I go to bed or whatever, I just clean up and like just tidy it. I have lots of little shelves, and because of that, those they're not always clean. My drawers are not always clean, but I do try to keep it clean. I feel like if it's clean, I'm in a better mood. I'm very OCD about certain things, if you can't tell. So I'm going to be in a better mood sewing if I have everything neat.
So something cute wants to know, where is your needle position?
Okay, I have it in the center. But if you wanted it to go a little bit over to the left, all you would have to do is just move it 1 digit. Because the triangles are so small, I kept it closed. And that's also why I didn't press open, so that it wouldn't break my seams.
Right, and can you explain your pinning method again?
So I will just pin at the intersection of where the triangles are, the points on each side. I poke it in, press it, and then just clip it or pin it. I guess that's the best way to explain it. I can show it again in a little bit. Oh, and somebody asked last week what the color of my wall was, and we went and looked, and it is, what is it? It's Sherwin-Williams, I think it's seafoam blue. Blue seafoam.
Someone is asking if you're stitching in the niche or on the side.
So I am stitching, so basically I am putting my little, my walking foot right on the print, and it is stitching about 1/8 of an inch over to the left. But you know, you could move your needle position over, or you could just eyeball it. You can do whatever you want. I'm just doing it about 1/8 of an inch over. Maybe you could show them up close, like the, I don't know. This is pretty, I don't know.
Someone else wants to know what the pillow size you are making this for.
So this is 18. It's going to be 18 and a half inches finished, and I'm going to use an 18-inch pillow form. And I kind of came up with that just because I was trying to use charm pack and triangle paper and waste no fabric, and that's what I came up with. But then when I finished it and put it in my little chair in the living room, it fit perfectly. So.
When you make decorative pillows, do you let your family like sit and play with them, or is
Oh,
it
yeah.
just for decoration?
Yeah, no. These will be used. So the one over there has already been used several times, and then this one, my daughter wants one for her room, and then I have enough fabric to make one more. So no, they'll be used. And it can be washed because of the way that I'm gonna show you how to make it. You can wash it. And pillows don't take as much time as quilting, so I don't really care as much as if they get messed up. So again, we're gonna go in and we're gonna have to do a diamond. So again, I'm going to start with a lock stitch, maybe that's what it's called, and then just go all the way around.
Turns off automatically.
Yes. No. Okay, so what it does is, yes, it does. After, it will turn off, but I would never just leave it sitting there all day like that, but it does turn off. But yeah, it does.
And someone's asking if there's a sewing machine you recommend for beginners who already know how to sew.
I think a good low-priced one is the Janome. I think that's a good sewing machine. Berninas are good. Baby locks are good. I love the Juki. I'm really not. I guess my philosophy is you don't need an expensive machine. You don't have to have an expensive machine. Now, if you want to have one, great. buy it. But I just am very, I don't know, I guess I'm just not very, I don't really care about it. Like, whatever machine sews is good to me. That's kind of my philosophy. So I do like how the Baby Lock quilt and the Bernina, I like how they quilt, both of those brands. But I like how the Juki pieces. So, but it only does a straight stitch. So that's, for a lot of people, they want to do applique and buttonhole, and you would need a different machine for that.
Someone was asking, how does by ends compares to Bosal?
Bosal, I think by ends is better, but Bosal is very similar. I think I'm kind of one of those people that once I try a product and I like it, and I'll never really switch. So I just like my Annie's because that's the first I ever used. So, and I think hers is made in the United States, and I've never had a quality issue with. It's always very clean, but Bosal's probably similar. I haven't really tried it. We sell it. It sells really good, but by Annie sells way better than the Bosal, so I can't say that. Almost done.
Someone is asking why you use 3 different types of machines.
So I only use 2. I use the Juki to piece, and I use this one to machine quilt. And I kind of talked about it earlier. The Juki, I just don't like how it quilts. I feel like it's too, I just don't like the look it gives. It puckers a little bit. And so I use a different machine for piecing and binding, and I just use the walking foot on it all the time. But you don't need to do that. It's just preference, I guess. Just kind of what I came up with after 20 years of doing this. It's what works for me, but you definitely, I mean, it's definitely don't need to do it. Cut my little threads. Okay, we got the last one, and then we'll put it together.
And people are asking if they can expect more bag tutorials on our channel.
Sure, we can do that. I'm not an expert in bags, but we can do that. We'll get some guests to come and do them. But yeah, I can do. Do y'all want like purses, or do you want like little handbags like I did last week? Whatever y'all prefer.
Zippers. People want stuff with zippers.
Love zippers. Okay.
Here, right here with the chair. Oh, sorry. You're good.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my cutting table. Actually, I'm going to iron it a little bit. Just to flatten it a little bit.
Angela says she would like to see some pouches and totes.
Okay.
And other people are just saying more bags, please.
More bags. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I ironed it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to base around the edge. So I'm going to make the stitch length as big as I can and 1/8 of an inch in. Not a quarter, but just 1/8. I'm going to stitch around so that these, when we're binding, these don't, they don't mess up. So I'm just going to kind of stitch it down all the way around the edge. One last. So now I'm going to trim about a 1/4 inch away from the edge. So not directly on the edge. So I'm just going to place my Creative Grids ruler and put my 1/4 inch and cut on all 4 sides.
Someone is asking, do you sew garments?
Nope. 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 No, and you know what? If I did, I mean, I have a girl and I have some boys. The boys don't care. They wear shirts from Target. My daughter doesn't care, so no. She even does dance, and I have one of my really good friends, Juliet. She's probably watching, so hi, Juliet. But she's actually making her a costume for next week, I hope. So yeah, I don't even do that. So on my edge, I'm gonna clip little triangles off the corners so that when we add our binding, there's no bulk there. So I'm gonna do that. I'm going to take my binding fabric. I should have done this before we started, but I didn't. We're gonna cut 2 2.5 inch strips and join them on the diagonal.
Alright, someone is asking why you started the machine quilting at the edge and worked inwards.
I feel like it's, I don't know, just did it. I think it just, sometimes I don't think things through, I just do it. But I didn't have any puckering issues, and I thought it was just easier, and that way also, I don't want to start in the middle and then go to the outside and then have the edge not on the edge, so I think that's why. Sometimes I just do stuff. Preference, I guess, I don't know. So I've got these 2 strips. I'm going to join them really quick on the diagonal and press open, and then we're going to make our binding strips.
Alright, someone is asking if you're cutting on a Lori Holt mat.
I am, yes, I am definitely cutting on a Lori Holt mat because everything has to be cute. So yes, I have all her mats. On the bottom mat, I just have a white plain mat, and I keep that mat where I never cut on it because those cost a fortune. So I never cut on that one because I don't want to have to buy a new one. And then I just put a cute one on top. Okay, so I'm gonna cut this, cut a 1/4 inch away, press open, press that seam open, and then we're gonna just piece those together, right sides together. So I'm gonna press this open. Anytime I do binding, I press open so that it doesn't bulk up. And then I'm just gonna press these wrong sides together and make my binding. I love to do binding. I love, love, love binding. I'm gonna use a little starch where there's a little. And also on my ironing table, I put just a white piece of fabric on top and switch it out like maybe every month. That way I don't ruin my pad underneath as much. So this is the same one we were last week. It's the same one that was on there.
What is the size of the binding strips?
2.5. 2.5. It's hot.
Oh, and someone's wondering, when you were sewing earlier, what was the purpose of the small starting fabric you used?
The what? Tell me again.
What's the purpose of the small starting fabric you always run through your piecing machine?
Oh yeah, so I do that because sometimes if I don't do that, my thread will come unthreaded, or I feel like it saves on time. It's just, when I start my stitching, there's no gunk. You know how sometimes your machine will like gunk up when you start, so it just gives it clean stitches. It's kind of a habit too. So I've got this. We'll set this aside and we're gonna create our backing. Can you throw me that on the floor, the blue piece? Oh, here it is, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. We have stuff everywhere. So now I've got a piece. It's like 27 inches or about 27 inches. Let me iron it. And you're gonna see this next step that I do. It is just whatever I do as I go. There's no, you know, when I'm making when you make pillows, I guess, it's just whatever. It doesn't have to be exact. It's not like quilting where everything has to be exact. So I just kind of made this up as I went last 2 weeks ago, I guess.
Right. Someone wants to know where you got your shirt.
Oh, Fat Quarter Shop. It says Fat Quarter Shop. So we've had this shirt about 2 years. I love this brand. I have some other shirts with it. So we found the brand. I always like something that is I like the sleeve length because I'm always cold. So yeah, you can get them at Fat Quarter Shop. We've got lots of shirts. We have like 3 or 4. So I've got this. Now I'm going to cut on the fold, right where the fold is. And that's going to give us 2 pieces. And then I think we got to move that one over there. Sorry, so I don't want to.
You're good.
Okay.
All right, and someone was asking if the iron stands up on its own.
Yeah, it does. So I love this iron. It's called an Aliso, and it stands up on its own. It doesn't burn the table. But if I'm sewing all day, I don't want to have to do this like all day. It hurts my wrist. Oh, and that just spit out. So I just like that brand. I will say they break a lot, so I'm just gonna warn you in advance. So, see now, I'm gonna show you, I don't even know what I did. I made this overlap, let me see how many inches. I don't even know what I did, I just made it up as I went. I made it overlap 4 inches. So, you're gonna take your 2 pieces, fold them like this, and just iron a crease right here. You don't have to do this part, I just think it gives it a really pretty look. Now some people might add a little stitch down the edge on one of them. If you wanted to add a decorative stitch, you could do that and it would add a little touch to your pillow. You only have to do it on one side though. So I'm gonna do 2.
Someone's asking if we're doing the 2018 mystery quilt on YouTube.
No. We don't usually do that because it's a mystery. I don't like to give it away, but I could do maybe a block tutorial. Maybe the first block I could do. But yeah, we do have a mystery group we have a mystery Facebook group, and I'm sure in the Kimberly Stitch Squad people are going to share. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my ruler and I'm going to place the fold on one of the lines. I'm going to count 4 inches over, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to place the other fold on top of it. And I'm going to line up the top and the bottom to make sure I have it. So that's going to create your little fold, like this. It's going to create this little thing. Now, I'm going to pin here. This is where it gets real tricky for me. Now I'm going to put this. Now we folded it over 4 inches. Now the center is going to be your 2 inches. So in between, 2 inches. So in between, I'm going to put my center on here. It doesn't have to be exact, but I'm going to put that on there. And I'm going to pin all the way around, and then we're going to baste this down so that when we put our binding, we don't have to worry about it moving. And sometimes I have to like unpin and start over because it moves, and I'm not that great at this part.
Someone is asking, what is your iron station made out of?
So the top is just, the bottom is shelves that I had made, and the top is literally just a plywood. Like if you got a, I think they're called big boards. It's basically that, just smaller. It's just plywood. And then I put some really thick Pellon and batting, and then a just an ironing board cover on it, and just staple gunned it down. So.
Well, people are asking about the thread wall. That was in our last video. If you want to direct them there.
Yeah, if you want to go to the last video, we talked about my thread wall. My uncle made it. So it's made out of like literally $100 worth of supplies. And he just handmade it. And you can see my thread moves because I sew in here all the time. So I have to like move it. It has a little notch where they won't fall off. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the machine and I'm going to baste again 1/8 of an inch in and just try to keep it together. I'm going to use the longest stitch that I have on my machine, and just on the outside. And then you want to be careful when you're going on the one that has the overlap, because sometimes it'll move. So you just want to be really careful that it, and that's why I do this in advance before I do the binding, so that if it does mess up, I can fix it before I put binding on, because I don't want to have to rip all of that out.
Just tuning in, and they're asking what kind of machines do you use?
So I have a Juki 2010Q that I use for piecing, and then I'm using a Baby Lock Crescendo for my binding and my quilting. But you really just need one machine, it's just preference. Okay, so I've got this. And it looks like nothing puckered, nothing moved. So I'm gonna trim again 1/4 inch away, basically on the same exact line that we had before that we cut. I'm going to cut that. Oops, should not be in there.
Someone's asking, how did you do the corners?
I'll show you. I'll show a up-close picture real quick. I need to get this cut off. I need to change my blade.
And what color thread is on the Baby Lock?
Let me look. Oops. 2024. Okay. Sorry. 2024, which is white. Okay. So I'll show you my corners. Oops. And I must have cut a little too much because this one came undone. So this is how, let's see. I just cut a little corner, and this is how I do it on all my quilts, so that when you turn, is that good?
That's perfect.
Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is this open, so I'm gonna just baste it down a little bit, one more time, so it doesn't come apart when I do the binding. Okay, so now we're, oh, this side came apart too. See, this is why I'm not that great at this part. like it's together mostly. Now we're gonna do the binding. Clean up some of this stuff or it'll drive me crazy. Okay, so to do the binding, I'm gonna get out my binding tool. And we're gonna leave a 12-inch opening. I'm gonna start that opening on one of the ends that does not have this fold. I'm gonna mark it with a friction pin.
Someone is asking what you were doing with the scraps.
The scraps, I'll just save them. I keep a little drawer of all the charm packs. And then I have another little drawer that has just like all my leftover fabrics, and I just kind of keep them. And then if I don't use them in like a year, I will donate them to a charity. There's a group in my neighborhood that quilts, and so they make quilts for babies, so I will do that. But a lot of times I'll use them up. Where are my friction pins, of course? My daughter loves friction pins, so there you go. She takes them all the time. So I'm gonna mark 12, mark at the 0 and the 12. I'm gonna lay my binding so that we're gonna start on this second dot, leave this loose, and we're gonna start and we're gonna stitch all the way around. And when I stitch, I'm gonna put the binding right on the edge of my fabric, and this 1/4 inch is gonna be left on the side, and that's for a reason. You're not gonna stitch over here. You're gonna stitch like right here. This is because I like a gap. I like it to be really full when I pull the binding over. So, and I'll show you how I do my corners. And I'm leaving this tail so that we have that length. And I'm gonna start it, I'm gonna do about a 3.0 stitch length. I'm gonna start and then back stitch to my point. So I'm gonna do about 3 stitches, 2 or 3, and then back stitch. I'm gonna go, this is my corner right here. I'm gonna stitch about a 1/4 inch away from it. I'm gonna go diagonal off the edge. Because if you start right there, your stitches might unravel. So I always go off the edge. I'm gonna fold this back, 45°, finger press, then pull the binding back. And this should be at an angle right there perfectly. I'm gonna start off of the edge and stitch, and we're gonna go all the way to the next edge. And here I'm gonna be kind of careful because you've got a 1/4 inch seam right here. So I'm gonna be like really careful and try to be at a 1/4 inch, and my walking foot is, the edge is a 1/4 inch away. And again, I'm gonna put a pin where I think where the edge is, so I can stitch. I just eyeball it a 1/4 inch away. After you've done it enough times, you'll get used to it. And then again, diagonal off the edge. Okay. Fold it back, 45°, finger press.
Someone's asking how you came up with the idea for the half square triangle pillow.
I actually just made it up. I wanted to make something aqua because I needed a pillow for my living room. It's aqua. And we got new furniture, and I just thought, okay, I went to the warehouse and I picked out fabrics that I liked, brought them home, And then I looked in my half square triangle bucket that's right here and figured out what size would perfectly fit on a charm pack with the littlest waist possible. And just kind of made it up. That's how I do a lot of stuff, is I just come in my sewing machine and just make it up. Like, it was just for fun. And then I thought, oh, maybe people would like to see this. So I'm about to run out of bobbin thread. I'm gonna have to wind a bobbin. So yeah, I just make stuff up. But I love all the fabrics. I'll save those charm packs, and like around Christmas time, I could make a smaller one for my aunts, maybe in pink, make each one a different color. There's some grays in there, so I'll use them for something. They won't be wasted.
Someone's asking if the shirt you're wearing runs small or if it runs true to size.
I think it runs pretty true to size. I have a large on. Okay, so of course my bobbin ran out again on this one, and I actually don't have any extra baby lock bobbins, so I never have these pre-wound. I need to go to the store and get some. I had a bunch, and then I moved, and I still have not found the box where my baby lock bobbins were. So I'm gonna wind this real quick.
Someone's asking, how do you keep your love for quilting since it's your business too?
Oh, it's hard. I just try to sew for fun, and I also do other crafts to distract me sometimes. But I mean, I get to sew so many things. I get to designer mystery with my employees. I get to pick what I sew. I get to do what I like. So I just make sure that I sew the stuff that I like. And a lot of the things that we come up with for the store are things that I like. So I think that's how. If I had to do things I didn't like, it would take the fun out of it. But for now, I get to do what I like. And like, my daughter loves this pillow, so actually this is gonna go in her room. Okay, so I'm gonna see where my other line is. Put a pin there, sew to it, and then back stitch. So now we will see if we started and stopped in about the right spot, and looks like we did. So we will go to the cutting table again. So what I'm going to do is printed side up, pull this over, and on the line, draw a line. There's lots of ways to do binding. I am helpless without the binding tool, I will say that. I have to have the binding tool to at least start. So we've done this side. We're gonna flip it to the other side, right side up. I have a video on this that goes into full detail. It's a binding video on how to use the binding tool. Now this time, you're gonna use the tip, and you're gonna line this up. Okay, so then I'm gonna look, and it's never a 1/4 inch. That's like 1/2 inch. So I'm gonna cut a little bit off.
Okay, someone is asking, will there be a written pattern for the pillow?
No, but we're gonna do a blog post. We'll do a blog post with lots of pictures, so we can do that, and that will have some instructions. Okay, so that looks about 1/4 inch. Before I go to the machine, I'm going to put these right sides together and pin, because if I don't, I will sew them together wrong, because I've done that so many times. Yeah, so we'll do a blog post on it with detailed instructions.
Okay, and somebody else is tuning in, and they're asking what batting you used.
I use Soft and Stable by Annie. It's not a batting, it's just a, it's called Soft and Stable. It's like a I don't really know how to explain it, but it's, yeah, Soft and Stable by Annie. Okay, so I'm gonna sew this together with a 1/4-inch seam. And again, I'm gonna use my other machine because I don't have to change the stitch length. I'm going to iron press the seam open. And I'm going to iron on the 2 friction pin parts that I use so that those go away with heat. Then I'm going to pin this in place, go, and then we'll finish the seam off, and then I'll show you how you can hand bind this. So when I finish this, I'm going to start and stop over my previous stitches so that nothing pulls out. So I'm going to just go over some of the previous stitches. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually press the binding away. I know a lot of people do not do this, but I love it. I think it gives it a really crisp. So I put the edge of the iron right where the binding.
All right, someone was asking how often do you oil your Juki?
Oh, yeah, you're supposed to. I never do. Yeah, you're supposed to. Like, I really need to. And I actually have never gotten a service, so yeah. I'm a really bad person to ask anything of that. I need to take it in to get service. I just don't really have time. So yeah, that's a good question. Probably every month is probably what you're supposed to do. So now I'm going to grab my binding clips. And I just pull this over, attach them all the way around. It's going to be pretty tight. I like my binding to be very full, so that's why I left that 1/4 inch on. So if you don't like that, you can just trim it a little bit. But do that on all 4 sides, and then I'll show you how to do some hand stitches, and then I cannot wait until all of you show me your pillows. I want to see who does it first. Whoever does their pillow first and finishes it gets free socks of your choice, Moda socks. So we'll see who. I'll watch all day and see who posts first on the Back Quarter Shop Kimberly Stitch Squad. We'll see who finishes first.
Do you want to show us your socks in a sec?
Oh yeah, I have my socks on. They say, quilting is my cardio, and for sure that's true because I don't work out. I don't do anything. I'm like, yeah, you can pay me to work out. Cannot do it. I walk my dog, that's about it. My little baby. But yeah, no.
Someone's asking, do you always hand bind?
Yes, always. Always, always, always. I like it, I enjoy it, so yeah, I do. So I'll try to find some needles. All my needles are actually, there's some in my binding bag that we did a video on. I'll just pull a needle. I'm not very particular about my needles. I'll get the white thread off of the machine. And wherever you cut is where you want to knot. And your your thread will not twist as much. So if you just remember that where you cut is where you knot. So just thread my needle. So to do this, what I'll do is I'll come up from the back all the way to a stitch. I mean, all the way to your machine stitch. And I will just hand stitch this all the way around. I make tiny stitches. I make sure I go right in that corner or right in the fold where the binding is. And I will make probably 4 to 5 stitches an inch. I love to do this part. So I will just do this all the way around. And then when it is done, it's gonna look like this. And you can put your pillow in, and this is gonna last a long time because it's doubled all the way. Some people will just do a little bit where you can put less fabric, but I feel like it'll stretch more. And you can wash this, and you can wash your pillow. And we sell these pillows. We're currently out, but you can get them at Joann's. It's Fairfield, and it has a zipper. So if this pillow gets gross, you can pull all the fiberfill out, wash it, and then put new fiberfill in. So it'll last a little bit longer. I always get, no matter what, I always get a pillow with zippers. So this is what it will look like, and you just stuff it in. And definitely send me ideas on what y'all want to see on the channel next. We're working on the Jelly Roll rug. We're working on doing a video for that. Next week, we're going to have a special guest. Just Another Button Company is going to be coming. They make the handmade and hand-dyed buttons. So we're going to have a Q&A with the daughter and the mother of Just Another Button Company. One of them does the clay mold, and one does the dyeing of the buttons, and we're going to do a live stream with them next Thursday. And so what they do is really neat. Never knew much about it until last year. I do cross stitch, but I still didn't know that much about them, but what they do is amazing. So make sure you have questions for them. So that's going to be next Thursday. And then after that, we'll just see what we come up with. But definitely send me any ideas you have. And we can, as long as I can do it, I can show you. So thanks for joining me today.